This is the famous loop-the-loop problem with the Hot Wheels car. So it's not powered. So the Hot Wheels car is put on a track and it rolls down the track and then it goes over the loop. And the question is, well, how high do you have to start the car on the track? How high above the ground, assuming there's no friction? Now, right off the bat, you may say, well, that's pretty easy. If you start it at 2r, the radius of the loop is r, 25 centimeter diameter, I put that in there. If you start from r, it'll get back up to r. And yes, it will, if there's no friction. So if there's no friction, that car would start right here, it'd roll down and speed up, and then slow down and get up there. But once it's up here, it would be at a 0 speed, just like it was up there, and it'd go boop, and it falls straight down. That's not what you want. That's not a loop. That's falling. Okay. So you have to start it off a little bit higher so that it's going fast enough that it doesn't fall off the track. That's the key. Okay, so perhaps right away you can see that this is a double problem. First of all, it's a work energy problem, right? Because I'm starting at a position and ending at a position, we have work energy. So work energy doesn't care about time. We don't care about time. And it does care about position. So here we're going to call this position 1 and that position 2, the car at the top. Okay, but in order to not fall down, it needs to have a velocity that way. So let's actually, before we get into the work energy problem, let's go and do the second part of the problem. So we're going to do this actually second, and the first is a Newton's second law problem. I'll put Newton 2. Because at this point, we want to make sure that it is moving in circular motion. And in order to do that, we can say it's just not even touching the track, right? We're going at the perfect speed, we're just dink around there. So because of that, we can deal with this Newton's second law and centripetal acceleration. So let's just take, let's take this car at the top of the loop and draw a force diagram. So it's moving this way. It's up here, is moving that way. That's a radius r. But the only force acting on it is the downward gravitational force mg. Because that's as slow as it can go. If it goes faster than that, the track will push down. Okay? But if it's going slower than that, that's the only force. If it goes slower than the minimum, then it won't be moving in a circle and it'll just fall. Okay. So let's now, once we draw a free body diagram, that's a velocity. So that's my only free body force. Let's pick our coordinate system. I'm going to say that's x, and that's y. Why do you want to do that? Because you want the acceleration in either the x or the y direction. If you don't do that, it's not easy. Okay, so if I have down towards the center of the circle, and the only force is also gravity, I can write Newton's second law in the y direction, F net in the y direction is going to be the gravitational force, negative mg, right? Because that's the y component. And that's going to be mass times acceleration. But remember, since we have something moving in a circle, centripetal acceleration is going to be v squared over r. That's the magnitude. The direction is right there in the name, centripetal, which means center pointing. So the acceleration is pointing down towards the center of the circle. So it's going to be negative m v squared over r. Now, what do we want to solve for? We want to find that velocity so we can work back and do our work energy problem. And that's not too bad. The negatives cancel, the mass cancels, and I get v. I'm going to write it actually as v squared. V squared is going to be equal to times r. That's it. And let's put a box around that. Now, you could find v. You could find the magnitude of v. Okay, that's the velocity needed to move in a circle. Now, let's just look for a second. Suppose it's going faster than this, then what's going to happen is you're going to need a greater force rather than just gravity, so the track would push down on it. If you want to go slower than that, then there would have to be an upwards pushing force because gravity is too great, and so you'd have to be like locked on the track. But this is just a car, and they're just rolling. Okay, it's not like locked onto the track. But that's our velocity. Now we can go up here to the work energy principle. What's the first thing we need to do in a work energy principle? System. We need to say what system are we going to look at changes in energy on, and in and work done on. And so in this case, I'm going to pick the system of the car plus the earth. Because I have a car, I can have kinetic energy. And because I have the car and the earth, I can have gravitational potential energy. Now, as soon as you write gravitational potential energy, and as soon as you see a y, you have to say y measures from where. And in this form of gravitational potential energy, it doesn't really matter where, but you have to just pick. So I'm going to go back over here to this diagram, and I'm going to say it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's not the easiest choice, but it's the logical choice. I'm going to pick y is 0 right down here at the bottom. So the ground is y equals 0. Now, what about work? Are there any other forces that exert on the system? Well, there is this track exerting a normal force the whole time it's on there. What do we do for the work done by the track? Well, because the track is pushing always perpendicular to the track, then the work done is F delta R cosine theta, but delta R and the force are always perpendicular. And the cosine of 90 degrees is 0, so that's 0. So now we can get the following. I feel like I poorly planned I don't need the work. I'm going to just erase all that. Okay. So now I can say work is the change in kinetic energy plus the change in gravitational potential energy, going from point 1 to point 2. So we release it from rest up here, so it has no kinetic energy. It does have a kinetic energy right there. So we have 0. It's going to be K2, which is 1/2 m v, I'm going to call it v2 squared, that's v2, minus the initial kinetic energy, which is 0, plus the final potential, which is mg, the position right there is 2r, minus the initial potential energy, mgh. And that's what we want to solve for. We're going to solve for h. Right off the bat, you can see that we don't have to worry about the 0, and the mass cancels. It's in all terms. We could divide 0 by the mass. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. No, I'm not. So 0 is 1/2 v2 squared plus g 2r minus gh. And I want to solve for h, so I'm going to add that to both sides and divide by g. So h is going to be v2 squared over 2g plus 2r. Now, here's where I thought ahead. I didn't solve for v and take the square root, so it's going to square it anyway. V squared is gr. So I get h equals gr over 2g plus 2r. G's cancel, and I get r times 1/2 plus 2. So h is going to be equal to r, and that's going to be equal to 4 halves. So it's going to be 5 halves r, and that's the answer. So, we didn't put our numbers. So I did have a radius of 25 halves. So let's put that in. It's going to be 0.25 over 2 times 5 over 2. So that's going to be, I could probably do this in my head. I'm not going to. You make mistakes sometimes when you try to be cool, and I just don't want to make a mistake. Again, okay, so I have 0.25 centimeters divided by 2 times 5 divided by 2. See, I wouldn't have got that anyway. 0.31 meters. That's where you need to start it. And again, assuming there's no friction. If there is friction, what happens is it would lose energy. It goes down the track. Energy would not be conserved and be going a little bit slower here. And so you'd have to drop it. So if you want to make sure you definitely get it, do more than 31 centimeters above the ground. The end. Talk to you later. Bye.